The Forsaken Heir. Episode 93. When Tianming learned that the Ito family wanted to help Charlie find Warnia's whereabouts and help investigate the whole story, he was also scared into a cold sweat even when he was 2,000 kilometers away. In this world, there is no perfect crime. When they were planning to kill Warnia, they only wanted to keep the murder clues in Japan, so that everyone thought that Warnia was killed in Japan and had nothing to do with them. This was enough. However, once people know that Warnia's death is related to them, or even they are the instigators behind the back, then the trouble will be big. Not to mention that the old man will be furious, and the domestic law enforcement agencies will not let them go. Although they committed crimes overseas, in the final analysis, the killers are the citizens of the country, and the laws of the country apply. Moreover, once the outside world knows that the father and son killed Warnia, the reputation of them and the entire Song family will inevitably decline. At that time, even if their father and son escaped the sanctions of the law by chance, they would all be treated like rats crossing the street and be beaten by everyone. Thinking of this, Tianming immediately made up his mind and blurted out, "Honor, if you run back right now, this is undoubtedly telling Charlie that you have a problem. Charlie will call your grandfather by then, using your grandpa's shrewdness. To the extent, they can guess all the links at once, and by then, you will have more trouble." Honor choked nervously, "Dad, what do you think I should do now? The Ito family is too strong. With their help, this matter will not take a few days. It will come to light, and by that time, I will be done." Tianming immediately calmed down and said, "Honor, you first calm down and wait for my message. After I go back, I will find a chance to give your grandpa the medicine." As he said, Tianming sneered, "As long as I turn the old thing into an Alzheimer's patient, I will call you back from Japan on the grounds of his sudden illness. In that case, Charlie should not suspect you. At that time, we will sell all the assets of the Song family as quickly as possible in the country, and then replace them with US dollars. Before this matter is completely solved, we will immigrate to the United States or Canada with tens of billions of dollars in assets." Honor asked hurriedly, "Dad, how long will your medicine be effective after the old man has taken it?" Tianming said, "If I increase the dose a little, it will take a few hours at most. It is estimated that he will become a dementia patient tonight." Honor sighed slightly and said, "If that's the case, can I fly back tomorrow morning?" Tianming hummed and said, "If things go well, everyone will find that your grandfather is suffering from Alzheimer's disease early in the morning. Then I will inform you to come back quickly, and then I will urgently inherit the position of the head of the Song family. Hurry up and get rid of all the assets." Honor asked again, "Then what about uncles? They are all eyeing the inheritance." "It is absolutely impossible for us to deal with it," Tianming said disdainfully, "Don't worry, they have long been looking forward to the separation of the family. Before, the old thing had been holding the power of the Song family, and they couldn't separate the family. Later, the old thing asked Warnia to take over as the head of the family. What I said, but I was even more annoyed." After a pause, Tianming continued, "And you know Warnia's style of doing things. This girl doesn't have a high pursuit of quality of life, so she wants to develop the scale desperately. She can't wait for all the profits made by the Song group. They are all invested in the new expansion. Everyone can't get any money when she does this. Who is not angry? As he said, Tianming sneered, if I inherit the position of the head of the Song family and I propose to divide the family, your uncles will never refuse. I will take a relatively large share and give them the rest. They won't have any opinions. Honor couldn't help asking, then what if they have opinions? What if they ask for a split by head? By the time we have done so hard, won't we all benefit them? Tianming smiled and said, don't worry, I have already considered these problems. After solving the old thing, I will give them two choices. The first option is to continue to be the owner of the house. Then, like Warnia, I will put all my energy into expanding the business map. In this way, they won't even think about being allocated from the Song group for a while. Money, when they do not have it, they will continue to maintain their arrogant and LUT-ful lives. Naturally they will be anxious to scratch their hearts. As for the second option, they voluntarily give up part of the share to me. In this case, I agree to sell the entire business for cash. In this way, they can get the money sooner and live the life they want. The total assets of the Song Group now amount to more than $20 billion. In order to seek a quick deal, the whole package is sold for $20 billion. The problem is still not big, and my requirements are not high. No matter how much it sells, we take half of the income and divide the rest equally. I believe they will not refuse. Honor thought for a while, and said in agreement, what you said makes sense. For them, there is no difference in essence between a person's share of $3 billion and a person's share of $5 billion. Anyway, with so much money, all of it in their life will never be spent. Tianming hummed, and said, based on what I know about them, they are definitely willing to sell some shares and get the money early, so that they don't have to send people under the fence, and they don't have to look at other people's faces. Honor sighed in relief and said with a smile, Dad, since you are confident, then I will wait for your good news in Japan. As long as you handle the old stuff there, I will return to China immediately. After returning, let's deal with these follow-up matters as soon as possible. Before the ITO family has found out the hidden circumstances of Warnia's murder, we will immigrate to the United States with the family. At that time, even if they find out that we are behind it, they will have nothing to do with us. Tianming also smiled and said, yes. Such a major case is generally not clear within a few months, and we don't need so much time. As long as 1 week at most is enough. After that, Tianming said, Honor, the only variable now is not the ITO family, but Charlie. This person is mysterious and scheming. You must not let him see any clues. Otherwise, if you are alone in Japan, if he wants to attack you, Dad is so far away, it is beyond reach. Honor hurriedly said, don't worry, Dad, I'm already very cautious. In front of Charlie, I have been doing my best to make myself look more natural. Moreover, all around my room are living with my own people. They have also checked against eavesdropping. I will definitely not let Charlie see any clues. Tianming chuckled, that's good. That's good. You can wait for my good news in the hotel. Knowing that Dad already has a complete solution, Honor was relieved immediately. What he and his father wanted was not the so-called patriarch of the Song family, but most of the assets of the Song family. After Warnia is removed, it is naturally the best situation to be able to manage the entire Song family steadily, but if this goal is not achieved, taking a step back and being able to get most of the assets is already satisfied for the father and son. Therefore, Tianming is not afraid that the murder of Warnia will be revealed, he is just afraid that it will be revealed too early. He needs to win a time difference, which is enough for him to get rid of Mr. Song, cash out all the Song family assets, and then flee to the United States. The biggest question now is how long this time difference is. After all, Charlie and the ITO family were investigating this matter, and Tianming was also worried about the premature exposure, so he planned to do something against Old Man in advance. Quickly solve the troubles of Mr. Song, so that honor can return to the country as soon as possible. Otherwise, honor will stay in Japan, which is like leaving a proton for Tianming. In ancient times, two countries that were hostile or threatened to each other often sent protons to each other. The so-called proton means that the emperor of a country sends one of his princes to hostages in a hostile country in order to seek peace. If during this period the two sides are violent, the other party can kill the proton at any time. Tianming was afraid to leave honor in Tokyo for too long, otherwise, if Charlie finds out something and takes his son as a hostage or simply kills him to avenge Warnia, then he will be dead. However, neither Tianming nor Honor knew that the conversation between the two of them had actually been monitored by the ninjas of the ITO family. After the two had finished talking, all the recordings of their conversation were sent to Nanako's cell phone. Nanako immediately put the recording to Charlie, and Charlie frowned immediately after hearing it. Nanako sighed, "Master is really good at everything, this honor is really the culprit." Charlie smiled slightly and said seriously, "Actually, this is not a good thing. Just remember one thing. When you can't find the culprit in a certain case, the culprit is often the case's beneficiaries." After speaking, Charlie said again, "Honor is the eldest son of the Song family. It is reasonable to say that his father should inherit the position of patriarch of the Song family. After his father retires, he will pass on the position of patriarch to him. But Honor's grandfather passed on the position of patriarch to Warnia, which invisibly brought a huge loss to Honor and his son. So, whenever Warnia dies, these father and son are the biggest beneficiaries. As the biggest beneficiaries, the suspicion is naturally the biggest." Nanako thought for a moment, and nodded in agreement, "What Master said is really reasonable. Sometimes, profit is the biggest motivation for committing crimes." Charlie said with a gloomy expression on his face, "Honor and the two grandfathers did all the money for that little property. I didn't expect that they not only murdered Warnia, but also their own father and grandfather. It is really hateful." Nanako hurriedly asked, "Master, what are you going to do now? Do you want me to get Honor to be deducted and force his father to surrender?" Charlie sneered, "This operation is okay, but it also has certain risks." Nanako asked, "Master, what are the risks?" Charlie explained earnestly, "If Tianming is willing to give up Honor, then even if I kill Honor, it is impossible to stop him." Nanako asked again, "Master, what are you going to do?" Charlie smiled, "I want to give them a bait." "A bait?" Nanako asked in surprise, "Master, what kind of bait?" Charlie said with a smile, "Don't Honor and his father think that Warnia's chances of survival are slim? Also, Don't they think that Mr. Song will definitely become Alzheimer's? If they succeed, I will announce from Tokyo. Nothing was found in the search. Will Honor and their father and son breathe a sigh of relief? Nanako nodded and said, that's for sure. The father and son may be happy to celebrate with fireworks. Charlie smiled and asked, then what would happen to them if they knew that Grandpa Song was not demented and Warnia was not dead at all when they were most proud of it? Nanako pursed her mouth and smiled. Once such a happy and sad thing happens, they will definitely collapse. Charlie nodded, yes. All I want is to make them happy first and sad later. As he said, he took out his cell phone and called Mr. Song. When the phone was connected, Mr. Song asked nervously, Master, have you found a clue about Warnia? Charlie said, Master, I am calling you to discuss something with you. Elder Song hurriedly said, Master, please tell me if you have anything. Charlie asked him, is it convenient for you to speak now? Convenient. Mr. Song said hurriedly, I'm in my own room now. It has been soundproofed and it is very safe. Charlie said seriously, okay, what I say next may be a bit shocking or even unbelievable to you, but you must not doubt it. Do what I say. As long as you do exactly what I say, not only you can survive, and your Song family can never suffer from future troubles. As soon as he heard this, Mr. Song said excitedly, Master, just give your orders. The old man doesn't dare to disobey. Charlie said lightly, I need you to take out the rejuvenating pill I gave to Warnia, and use a blade to scrape 1/5 of the dose and soak it in water for consumption. Father Song was shocked and blurted out, Master, why do you want me to take rejuvenation pill? And it's still 1/5. What special intentions do you have? Charlie snorted and said, 1/5 of the rejuvenating pills can at least guarantee that you will not be invaded by poison in the next 2 days. Father Song was even more shocked. Master, what do you mean? Could it be, is anyone going to poison me? Charlie said very bluntly, Master, from now on, you must always pay attention to your eldest son Tianming. As far as I know, he is likely to use some kind of nerve-damaging drug to destroy your brain. So, you take 1/5 of the rejuvenating pills in water in advance, and after you meet him, you will eat whatever he feeds you, whatever he gives you, you must drink it, and then at the right time, pretend to remember nothing and know nothing. Speaking of this, Charlie said again, or I would say it more directly, you are playing a dementia patient in front of Tianming. Mr. Song was shocked. Wait, Master, you mean, Tianming, he, wish me ill? Charlie didn't conceal it, and said seriously, from the information I have received so far, this is indeed the case, so you must take a look at what medicine they sell in the gourd. Oris Hill, Song family. When Tianming came back, he pretended to be nervous to find Mr. Song to ask questions. His face was full of concern for Warnia. Elder Song looked at his eldest son, wondering deep in his heart. He really didn't want to believe that the eldest son he had raised for 50 years wanted to murder him. If these words were spoken by any other person, Grandpa Song would never believe it. However, when the words came out of Charlie's mouth, even if he didn't want to believe them, Mr. Song had to pay attention to it. Because, in his heart, he knew very well that Master Charlie's abilities are all over the sky, and with his character, he would never say anything irresponsible. And since he said so, there must be some evidence. Thinking of this, while looking at his eldest son Tianming, he secretly thought in his heart, "It seems that I really have to be cautious. From now on, I must have the spirit of 12 points." At this point, he stood up and said to Tianming, "Hey, Tianming, I have been exhausted by Warnia's affairs, and my body is somewhat unwell. Now that you are back, you will help me preside over the overall situation. I have to rest, the body can't hold it anymore." Tianming hurriedly said, "Dad, then I will help you back to your room." Mr. Song waved his hand and said, "No, please contact Honor quickly and ask about the progress in Japan. Has he found any news about Warnia? If you have news, please tell me in time." After speaking, the old man looked at the housekeeper Boyo and said, "Boyo, you can help me back to the room." Boyo nodded hurriedly, stepped forward, and said respectfully, "Master, please." Grandpa Song stood up, took a look at Tianming, and exhorted, "Tianming, your brother left Warnia in his bloodline after he left. No matter what, you must let her come back alive, otherwise I will die and I will have no face to see the couple, do you understand?" A bit of embarrassment flashed in Tianming's eyes, and he immediately returned to nature, and said seriously, "Don't worry, Dad, I will definitely go all out." Father Song nodded lightly, sighing in his heart. The reason why he said this was to see if Tianming did this thing, then whether he has the last bit of conscience. If he still has a little conscience, he should let his niece go and leave his dead brother a queen. But if he said this, he was still indifferent, and even continued to murder him, then for him, this son could give up completely. Boyo assisted the exhausted old man to return to his room. As soon as he entered the door, Mr. Song looked like he had changed. He was sharp and alert, and his body was no longer as weak as before. He said coldly to Boyo, "Boyo, close the door, come to the study in the inner room, let me tell you something." Mr. Song's room is actually a large suite. The living room, bedroom, living room, and study are all in it, which is very private. Especially the study room, which is located in the center of the whole suite, with other rooms on all sides as buffers. There is no open window, and conversations are difficult to be eavesdropped on. Seeing Mr. Song suddenly becoming serious, Boyo suddenly had a long-lost familiar feeling. Back then, when Mr. Song was in his prime, he acted vigorously and decisively. From then on, Boyo followed him and saw him riding the wind and waves in the sea of commerce. Every time Elder Song wants to do a big thing, he will look like this, with firm eyes and torch. He hurriedly followed the old man into the study, and then, after the old man waited for him to close the door, Boyo was shocked by the first words he said. "Boyo, start the monitoring system at home. From now on, give me a comprehensive monitoring of Tianming's every move." As soon as Boyo heard this, his whole expression suddenly shrank. Before he moved into this villa, Mr. Song specifically confessed to him that he found the best security company on the market and quietly installed a complete set of internal monitoring systems. A total of 4 systems have been installed throughout the Song family villa. The first set is a family security system to prevent thieves and criminals. The second set is an outdoor monitoring system, which can shoot all positions inside and outside the wall and the entire courtyard without dead angles for 24 hours. The third set is the emergency escape system. Once a natural disaster occurs, or when there is sudden danger, it is used by the owner to escape. The Song family knows these three systems very well, but the fourth set of internal monitoring systems is known to only two members of the family. One is Mr. Song and the other is Boyo. This fourth system is the internal monitoring system. The internal monitoring system monitors all the places in the entire villa in 360 degrees without blind spots. The concealed cameras are all very clever, and ordinary people may not be able to discover them in 10 years, and these cameras are also equipped with high-fidelity orientation. The microphone can clearly capture the sound in every room. The reason why Mr. Song installed this system is not because he has any desire to spy, but because he really sees more infighting among other giants around him. Some are even finding brothers and sisters for money, killing fathers and mothers for money, for the benefit of nothing. Do not use the extreme. Therefore, Mr. Song, who has a strong sense of anxiety, was worried that something like this would happen to the Song family in the future, so he specially installed this internal monitoring system to fully monitor the other party and gain insight into the other party as soon as possible. However, this system has been on standby 24 hours a day since its installation for so many years, but this system has never been actually used. Mr. Song is also considered a decent gentleman. When his children and grandchildren show nothing wrong, he is unwilling to spy on his children and grandchildren's privacy. But now, he has to use this system to monitor Tianming's actions, to see if he is not only the culprit in the murder of Warnia, but also intends to poison him. Boyo asked nervously at this time, "Master, you suddenly want to activate this internal monitoring system. Is there any major change in the Song family?" Old man nodded his head with a heavy face. "Boyo, you and I have been together for many years as a fateful friendship, so when there is a problem in this family, you are the person I trust the most, so I will not hide this matter." Just before Tianming came back, Master Wade just called me. He said that Tianming and Honor had harmed Warnia, and that the father and son wanted to give me medicine and turn me into an Alzheimer's patient. "What?" Boyo said dumbfounded. This, Master, are you kidding me?" Elder Song seriously said, "How can this kind of thing be a joke? If it weren't for Master Wade to tell me, I wouldn't believe it if I was killed." Boyo thought for a moment, nodded solemnly, and said seriously, "Master is not an ordinary person. If he said that, he must have his reason. You must pay attention to this matter. You must take precautions." Father Song sighed, "This is from Master's mouth. I naturally take it seriously, so I have to activate the internal monitoring system to see what Tianming is doing and saying when he is not in front of me. The difficulty of running a large family is comparable to running a country. Looking at the current big families fighting each other, it can be said to be exactly the same as the fighting between ancient princes recorded in history books. For the throne, the ancient princes did not hesitate to kill their brothers and kill their fathers. But such things are not uncommon in today's society, especially in large families with assets of more than 100 million. Although the sons of the Song family have always been very united and harmonious before, Old Song has always planned the worst in his heart. Now, the internal monitoring system he prepared has really come in handy. Boyo immediately came to the bookcase and found a secret switch. After that, the bookcase slowly moved to the left, revealing a huge display embedded in the wall. Boyo quickly turned on the monitor, and then said to Mr. Song, "Master, please verify it." Mr. Song nodded, took out his mobile phone, and opened an inconspicuous software from it. This software is the entrance to this internal monitoring system. To open the software, it must go through the same triple certification as the banking software. These triple authentications are facial recognition, traditional passwords, and real-time mobile phone verification codes. If one is wrong, the software cannot be activated. After Master Song successfully activated the system, the display on the wall immediately turned into a picture of as many as 210 small grids. The pictures in these 210 small grids are from 210 cameras in different positions. Father Song chose 4 of them, and the 210 pictures on the screen disappeared and turned into the 4 pictures he chose. The area of these 4 pictures is much larger at once, and everything on the pictures can be clearly seen. The 4 scenes that Mr. Song chose were Tianming's bedroom, Tianming's study, Tianming's living room, and gym. At this time, Tianming had just returned to his room. In the picture, he walked through the living room to the bedroom, lying directly on the soft and comfortable bed. When Grandpa Song saw his expression on the bed, he immediately believed what Charlie said in his heart. He didn't believe Charlie before, but he still wanted to hold a glimmer of hope in his heart. But at this moment, when he saw Tianming lying on the bed with stretched legs tilted and his face full of excitement, he knew that Tianming must have a problem. Otherwise, his niece is alive or dead in a foreign country is still unsure, and he shouldn't have this expression no matter what. Grandpa Song pointed to Tianming on the screen, and said sharply to Boyo, "Boyo, look at this beast. He was so worried and so distressed just now in front of me, all the fkook is acting for me. Now he has this face." The expression on the face is the true portrayal of his heart. He is happy. And very happy. Boyo nodded and sighed. It seems that what Master said is true, the young Master does have a problem. Having said that, he couldn't help but admire, "Master, this internal monitoring system can not only determine their conspiracy, but also lock down evidence of their crime. You are really too prescient." Mr. Song sighed. The ancestors said that if people are born in sorrow and die in happiness, if a person has no sense of anxiety, what is the difference from the animals waiting to be slaughtered in the slaughterhouse? Survive in society. Having said that, he said with grief, "But, I really didn't expect that my worries would become a reality." At this time, there was a ring of the cell phone ringing on the screen. Tianming's cell phone rang. Lying on the bed, Tianming immediately picked up the phone and said with a smile, "Honor, I'm home. Yes, don't worry, the old thing hasn't noticed anything abnormal, he may be sick for too long, so he went back to his room to rest." At this time, the high-fidelity directional microphone also caught Honor's voice on the phone, and he asked, "Dad, when are you going to give medicine to the old thing?" Tianming smiled and said, "Don't worry, there is no suitable option right now. I just told the chef to stew a bowl of bird soup for your grandfather. Later I will take it first. After adding the medicine, I will send it to his room. Watch him drink it with my own eyes." Honor hurriedly asked again, "Dad, How long will this medicine take effect? Tianming said, time is running out. I give the old thing more dose. It should be effective within an hour or two after he takes it. Honor said with excitement, that's really great. When the old things turn into Alzheimer's, Song family affairs, he will never have the opportunity to make trouble. Tianming hummed, and said, Honor, you tonight. Take a good rest first. If Charlie has something to tell you to do, then you honestly follow his instructions and do not let him have any doubts. After I turn the old stuff into Alzheimer's, I will call you back, and then you can fly back to Oris Hill directly. Honor said excitedly, Okay Dad, then I am waiting for your news. When Mr. Song heard this, he only felt anxious. Really? He really wants to harm me. I'm his biological father. Now he wants to poison me for a little family property. When Mr. Song said this, his whole body was shaking with anger. He stood up, pointed at Tianming on the screen, and shouted angrily, I have never done anything wrong with this son in my life. I didn't expect to give birth to such a wolf beast. I knew he was such a beast. I should have strangled him in a swaddle. And his honor. I have loved him since the day he was born. I didn't expect that he would do such an inferior thing for money. Boyo was equally shocked and angry, but he still hurried over to help old man, and said seriously, Master, the top priority now is not to get angry, but to think about how to deal with it. After a pause, Boyo said again, Don't say anything else, you must not take the bird soup that he prepared for you. Not only can't it be taken, but we also have to work hard. From now on, all eating and drinking must be guarded strictly, and we must not leave him any opportunities. Grandpa Song shook his head with a sad expression on his face, waved his hand and said, Boyo, since he already has the heart to harm me, if I keep guarding so strictly, it will let him realize that he has been exposed and become even more vicious. If he is not allowed to succeed, he might not just want to turn me into Alzheimer's, but want to make worst actions. Boyo hurriedly asked him, Master, are you planning to let them succeed and let you be at their mercy? Grandpa Song nodded and said seriously, Boyo, I have the rejuvenation pill given to me by Master. He specially asked me to use it to resist poison. If you want to come, Master should not be able to cheat, so I will give it to them. One will count. When Boyo heard this, he was relieved and sighed, Fortunately, there is Master. Father Song couldn't help sighing, Hey! Yet! If it wasn't for Master, I would have killed the old bones, I don't know how many times I have died. Boyo nodded slightly and said, Master, you have done good deeds throughout your life. Master may have been arranged by God to keep you safe throughout your life. Grandpa Song smiled bitterly, and said, Boyo, if I can do everything, I must act as a patient with Alzheimer's disease. At that time, you must not reveal any flaws. The two beasts know that you are the person I trust the most. If they ask you about anything about me, you must know how to use wisdom to mediate with them. You must know what you need to say and what you can say, and let them know that you are loyal to them. But, what you can't say, don't mention a word. Especially the existence of this internal monitoring system, we must never let them know, understand? Hearing the explanation from Mr. Song, Boyo did not hesitate to nod his head, Master, rest assured, I must keep in mind the things you explained." Only then did Mr. Song relieved his mind, and then he waved his hand weakly and said, "Boyo, I'm a little tired. Go ahead and I'll take a rest." Boyo said nervously, "Master, why don't you go to the bedroom to rest? I'll be guarding in the living room outside, you really don't worry." Grandpa Song gave a wry smile and asked him, "Are you afraid that you will not be in front of me when they give me medicine?" "Yes." Boyo's eyes were red, and he said very seriously, "Master, you are indeed very powerful, but this kind of thing, I am really afraid that something will happen." Old man smiled indifferently, "Don't worry, since some things are beyond your control, you must feel relieved and boldly give it to someone more capable, and then trust that person wholeheartedly." With that, Mr. Song said again, "It's as if you have just started skydiving. Before you can accumulate enough skydiving times, you must be led by the instructor. Every time you jump off the plane, your fate is not in your control. In your own hands, but in the hands of the coach behind you. What you have to do at this time is to safely and boldly entrust your life to him, and let professional people do professional things." Boyo knew that the professional person he was talking about was Master Wade, so he nodded slightly and said, "Master, then I will do what you said." Grandpa Song gave a hum, then nodded slightly, and exhorted, "After you go out, do what you should do the same. If I don't call you, or if there is nothing important, you should not come to me." Boyo hurriedly said, "Okay master, then you take a rest first, I'm going out." Father Song waved his hand, and sighed softly, "Hey, go." After Boyo left, Mr. Song has been in front of the monitor, observing his son, who he has raised for 50 years. The more he watched, the more he felt that the man in the video became stranger. In the video, Tianming repeatedly played with a potion in his hand. His expression at this time was not half hesitating, but some were obviously excited and unable to hold back. The old man's heart was dead ashes, and he became more and more certain that his son had almost no affection or kindness towards him. An hour later, Tianming, who had long been unable to restrain himself, was already unable to sit still. He didn't want to wait any longer, so he got up and went to the back kitchen. According to his instructions, the chef has simmered the bird soup with rock sugar. When Tianming came, he asked, "Is the bird soup prepared for the master ready to be stewed?" The chef hurriedly said, "I have to wait 10 minutes to get back to the young master." Tianming waved his hand, "No longer, the old man is hungry, and he needs something to replenish his physical strength. Just serve me a bowl, and I will deliver it to the father myself." The chef didn't dare to disobey, so he hurriedly pulled out a bowl, put it in the tray carefully, and said to Tianming, "Master, the bowl is very hot, be careful." Tianming gave a hum, then returned to his room with the tray. After returning to the room, he took out the medicine he had already prepared, and added one of the medicines to the bird soup in the bowl. Seeing this scene, Mr. Song gave a wry smile and shook his head. He was the only one in the study at this time, and he couldn't help muttering to himself, "Tianming, you and I have been a father and son for 50 years. Since today, you and I have been suffocated. The past is like a cloud of smoke from today, and you have blown it away. It is completely dispersed." Afterward, he stood up, turned off the monitoring system, and restored the study to its original state. Then from the mobile phone, the software that authorized the internal monitoring system was also completely deleted. From now on, he was prepared to follow Charlie's statement completely, and to do everything. Therefore, after Tianming will give him medicine and before Charlie comes back, he will become a patient with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's patients don't know how to use mobile phones, so they can't even touch their phones during this time. Therefore, just in case, deleting the software directly will be more stable. Later, Mr. Song found the rejuvenating pill, scraped a layer from it, soaked it in the water and took it. Soon after, he went back to his bed and lay down. At this moment, the visual screen at the head of the bed suddenly lit up, and Tianming appeared in the picture, followed by a melodious Turkish march ringtone. This is the doorbell of Mr. Song's room. Because his own suite was too big, when people were in the bedroom or study, they couldn't hear someone knocking on the door outside, so he rang the video doorbell. Seeing that his eldest son came to his door with the medicined bird soup, Mr. Song gave a light sigh and pressed the answer button. "Tianming, are you okay?" Tianming hurriedly said to the camera, "Dad, are you asleep?" Mr. Song deliberately made his voice a little tired and said, "I was awakened by you as soon as I fell asleep. Why are you so anxious?" Tianming hurriedly said, "Dad, I just saw you look exhausted, so I asked the chef to stew a bowl of bird soup with rock sugar." Grandpa Song gave a hum and said, "You are so caring, come in." After that, he pressed the door button. Tianming heard the click of the door and knew that the door lock had been released, so he pushed the door into the room, walked through the living room, and came to the bedroom. He stepped to the bed of Mr. Song and asked with concern, "Dad, how are you feeling?" Elder Song said absently, "It's okay," squinting for a while. After speaking, he couldn't wait to ask, "How is Warnia? Is there any news from Japan?" Tianming shook his head and said with a bit of pain on his expression, "Dad, there is no valuable news from Japan. I am also continuing to communicate with Honor. At the same time, I have asked him to find from the Japanese TMPD some specific clues. I will inform you as soon as possible." Father Song nodded, and sighed, "I feel more at ease when you came back." Tianming smiled slightly and said respectfully, "Dad, the rock sugar bird soup is very suitable for replenishing qi and blood. Drink it while it's hot now." A trace of sadness flashed in the eyes of old man. In the end, his own son still has to do something against himself. So he sat up without hesitation and said to Tianming, "Come, help me to sit in the living room for a while, I'll drink in the living room." Tianming was overjoyed and said hurriedly, "Okay Dad. I will help you to the living room." Tianming helped the old man into the living room, let him sit down on the sofa, and immediately handed over the bird soup with rock sugar, and said respectfully, "Dad, you drink it while it is hot." Without any hesitation, Mr. Song nodded and took the bowl of bird soup with rock sugar, took a sip, and exclaimed, "It tastes good, you are so caring." Tianming didn't expect things to go so smoothly, he couldn't help but feel ecstatic, and said with a smile, "Dad, what are you doing so politely with me? Isn't this all I should do? What should be done?" Old man smiled and nodded seriously. He suppressed the sorrow deep in his heart and sighed from the bottom of his heart, "Oh, that's right, it should be done, it should be done." I have a good son. Ha 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 ha. Father Song suddenly sighed, making Tianming more or less guilty. However, he carefully observed the old man and found that there was nothing wrong with him, so he was relieved. He felt that he had almost no intention of rebelling against the old man. Even if he wanted to give up the position of Song family patriarch to Warnia, he himself did not express very strong opposition, so the old man should not doubt him. So, he smiled and said respectfully, "Dad, you drink more while it's hot, and I will let the chef stew you a pot of nutrient soup in the evening to replenish your body." Mr. Song nodded, did not speak, but ate all the bird soup in the bowl. Seeing the old man eat up the bird soup in the bowl, Tianming was completely relieved and sneered in his heart, "Warnia's life and death are unclear, and the old thing has become demented. No one in the Song family can be an enemy of mine. Old things have always it is the eldest son who inherited the throne. If you insist on giving me this monster moth, don't blame me for being cruel." Afterwards, he smiled and said to the old man, "Dad, you can rest for a while, I will go out and call Honor and ask him how he is doing now." The old man nodded gently, "Go." Tianming stepped out of the old man's room, did not really call Honor immediately, but directly found one of his confidants, called him to his room, and said seriously, "From now on, keep an eye on the old man. You must tell me everything he does and what the old man said. Do you understand?" The other party nodded immediately, "Understand the master." At this moment, Father Song lying on the bed suddenly felt a headache, and the painful entire brain seemed to be abruptly stripped out. But soon, there was warm energy in his body that completely drove the pain away from his body. He knew very well in his heart that the headache must originate from the neurotoxin that Tianming had given him. And that warm energy is just a small amount of rejuvenation pills that he took in advance. The old man couldn't help but sighed. It seems that the rejuvenation pill really can resist all kinds of poisons, as Master said. Since it has escaped the damage of neurotoxins, the next thing to do is to pretend to be foolish for 24 hours. He must ensure that no one sees any flaws before Master returns. So he took advantage of this relatively free time in the end and took out his mobile phone to check the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. He found that Alzheimer's disease can cause memory impairment, as well as loss of cognitive ability, language ability, and visual ability. Severe Alzheimer's disease has not only severe memory loss, but also symptoms such as incontinence, body stiffness, and hollow eyes. Seeing this, Mr. Song secretly thought in his heart, "It seems that if I want that rebellious son to completely believe that I have become Alzheimer's, I must show symptoms of severe dementia. Only in this way can he be completely relieved." After an hour, Tianming has been paying attention to the time. Now it has been an hour and a half since the father took the medicine. It stands to reason that the effect of the medicine has already occurred. So he planned to go to the old man's room to see the situation. When he came to the door of the old man's room and pressed the doorbell, there was no response in the room. He was overjoyed, but on the surface, he pressed it again without showing off. This time there was still no response. So he pretended to panic and said, "Come on! Come on!" Suddenly, several servants ran over and asked, "Master, what happened?" Tianming said, "He didn't respond when I pressed the doorbell of the master. I am afraid that he might have an accident." You should help me knock the door open." When several servants heard this, they suddenly became nervous, and one of them took the initiative. "I'll come." Another hurriedly said, "I'll be with you." At this time, Boyo also rushed to hear the news and asked nervously, "Young master, what happened to the master?" Tianming saw him and said hurriedly, "Boyo, you came just right. Father is in the room and he has no response after pressing the doorbell several times. I'm afraid he will have an accident." Boyo's heart was tense, and he suddenly realized that Tianming should have given the old man medicine, and suddenly he felt a little angry, sad, and worried. He didn't know whether Charlie's method could save the old man from disaster. However, he did not dare to show any hesitation, and said hurriedly, "Then slam the door open and go in and have a look." Several servants had already begun to work hard together and ran into the gate. After several times, the gate was knocked open with a bang. Immediately afterwards, Tianming pulled away the left and right people. His face was nervous, and he rushed in first. As soon as he entered, he went straight to the bedroom, running, and shouting, "Dad! Dad! You're all right, Dad!" With that, he pushed open the bedroom door. As soon as Tianming entered the door, he was immediately stunned by the sight in front of him. Then Boyo, who rushed in, and several of his servants were also frightened by the situation in front of them. In the meantime, Father Song was standing by the bed with a dazed expression. He was wearing only a pair of boxer briefs. There were a few strands of yellow shit flowing along the two legs at the base of his thigh. The expensive handmade wool carpet was full of filth mixed with shit and urine, and the whole room was full of foul smell. Seeing so many people suddenly rushing in, Mr. Song was so frightened that he burst into tears. He stumbled to the balcony and cried out, "Who are you? What are you doing?" Seeing the old man's appearance, Tianming was happy. The old thing really is Alzheimer's. Can't even control his bowels. This is really stable. Although he thought so in his heart, he was still very nervous on the surface, and rushed over, regardless of his filth. He kept him tight, and cried, "Dad, what's the matter with you, Dad? You don't recognize me? I am God." Ming. Although the old man was angry at this time, he still admired his son. This beast is really capable of bending and stretching out. I am so dirty that he can come up to hug me without hesitation in front of so many people, and he is so real. It seems that he is also the number one character. Thinking of this, Mr. Song couldn't help but laugh at himself. Why am I not the same? In order to make him completely believe that even things like incontinence can be performed, compared to this beast, he is more able to survive. Although he had mixed feelings in his heart, the play still had to go on, so he desperately tried to break free from Tianming, crying loudly, "Kill! Kill!" Tianming cried loudly and said, "Boyo! Hurry up to arrange a car and take Dad to the hospital. Hurry up!" Tianming hurriedly went back to his room and changed into clean clothes while Boyo took Mr. Song to the hospital. In the process of changing clothes, he had already called Honor and officially informed Honor and asked him to return to Oris Hill immediately. Honor has been waiting for the news, so he arranged for the private jet to prepare for takeoff almost immediately, and was scheduled to leave Tokyo early tomorrow morning. In order to prevent Charlie from doubting, Honor also called Charlie respectfully. On the phone, he said respectfully, "Master, my father called me just now. Grandpa seems to have a little problem. I have to rush back as soon as possible, so I may leave Tokyo early tomorrow morning." Charlie pretended to be surprised and asked, "Honor, what's wrong with your grandpa? Is it a serious problem?" Honor hurriedly said, "Master, don't worry, my dad said there is nothing serious, but his mind seems to be a little unconscious, so I hurried back to take a look." As he said with some pleading, "Master, I have to leave Tokyo temporarily this time. I can only ask you to find Warnia. Please do your best to find her and bring her back to Oris Hill. She represents our family, thank you." Charlie snorted and said, "Don't worry, I will do my best. The best case is that I will be able to take Warnia back to Oris Hill in a few days." Honor on the other end of the phone sneered when he heard this. "The surname is Wade, did you fucking wake up? Warnia has been missing for more than 24 hours. Even if she didn't die in the car accident, she was in that mountain. I guess there is no way for her to survive in the old forest after so long. Furthermore, the deep mountains of Nishitama County are inaccessible, and there are many wild animals. Maybe her body is now eaten by the birds and beasts in the mountains and only the bones are left. Do you want to take her back to Oris Hill? Have your dream of spring and autumn come together?" However, even though he thought so in his heart, Honor still said very sincerely, "Master, thank you so much." Charlie said indifferently, "Don't be so polite, it's not too early, you take a good rest, go back tomorrow morning, and help Mr. Song et well by the way." After hanging up the phone, Charlie wiped a mocking smile from the corner of his mouth. Tianming and Honor his son must be very proud now. They must feel that Warnia has a high probability of dying, and Mr. Song himself has become Alzheimer's, and now the entire Song family has become their possession. Okay, let them be proud. After Honor left, he sneaked away from Tokyo with his lover and returned to Oris Hill quietly, catching them by surprise. At that time, they thought that Mr. Song, who had become Alzheimer's, would also tear off the disguise, interact with them inside and outside, and give them a fatal blow. Just thinking, Nanako ran over, knocked on Charlie's half-open sliding door, poked her head in and smiled sweetly, and said, "Master, Miss Song is awake." Charlie smiled and said, "She slept all day and finally woke up." Nanako smiled and said, "She was frightened last night, and after walking in the mountains for so long, she must be exhausted. It is normal to sleep longer." Then, she said, "By the way, Master, I have arranged for Miss Song to go to the hot springs to relieve fatigue. My father sent someone to send a freshly caught bluefin tuna, and the family members prepared 2 bottles of Yamazaki 50. In the evening, I invite you and Miss Song to eat sashimi and sushi. Bluefin tuna is the most expensive fish, the quality is really good, 1 piece is worth 10 million, and the next 1 kilogram is more than $10,000. And this is not the terminal retail price, this is the package auction price of the whole fish. In the past 2 years, a big Japanese boss bought a bluefin tuna weighing 278 kilograms, which cost a full $3.1 million, and the average price per kilogram was $11,000. And if this quality of bluefin tuna is delivered to top restaurants, the price will be several times higher. Eat the most expensive bluefin tuna in the most high-end shops. The price of fish is even more expensive than gold. As for the Yamazaki 50-years-old whiskey, it is the top whiskey of Japan's national treasure, with a single bottle of more than RMB 3 million. Takehiko used such expensive ingredients and drinks to host a banquet, which is enough to see how much he values Charlie. When Charlie came to the restaurant, Takehiko had been waiting here for a long time. At this time, a huge bluefin tuna was placed in the center of the huge wooden dining table. The body of this bluefin tuna was covered with ice cubes made of frozen pure water. A chef is holding a sashimi knife standing next to him. After the meal is opened, he will directly cut different parts from the bluefin tuna for the guests to enjoy. Seeing Charlie's arrival, Takehiko hurriedly said with enthusiasm, "Mr. Wade, please take a seat. Mr. Wade has good fortune today. This is a bluefin tuna brought by the fishing boat just an hour ago. It is the best quality in Tokyo this year." "Good one." Charlie smiled slightly and said seriously, "Mr. Ito is really too polite. In fact, I don't have much demand for food." "You don't have to spend so much," Takehiko said very seriously. "Mr. Wade is a distinguished guest of our unified family, and the best ingredients and wine are naturally used to entertain distinguished guests." Then, he asked Nanako, "Nanako, Miss Song hasn't gotten up yet." Nanako smiled and said, "Miss Song is in the hot spring. I have ordered to bring her over after she finishes the hot spring." "Okay." Takehiko nodded lightly and smiled, "Then we will wait for Miss Song to come." Charlie remembered something at this time and asked Takehiko, "By the way, Mr. Ito, I want to ask you something." Takehiko hurriedly said, "Mr. Wade, you don't have to be so polite, just ask if you have anything, I must know everything." Charlie nodded and asked him, "If I want to leave Japan quietly without disturbing the customs, do you have any good ideas?" Takehiko thought for a while, and said, "If you don't want to disturb the customs, you can only use the smuggling road." Charlie asked again, "How is it more convenient to smuggle? Is it feasible?" Takehiko explained, "There is basically only one way to smuggle from the sea by boat, especially an island country like Japan, which is not bordered by any country. If you want to leave secretly, there are only two roads, the sea and the sky. The aircraft control is extremely strict and there is basically no operating space, so the only option is to go by sea." With that said, Takehiko said again, "Japan has a long coastline, and shipping is relatively developed. There are too many ships coming and going. It is not difficult to smuggle out by the sea." Charlie heard this and said to him, "Mr. Ito, please help me prepare a boat. I want to take Warnia back to China." "Smuggling back?" Ito said in a puzzled way, "Mr. Wade, if you want to smuggle back to your country, you must not only conceal the customs in Japan, but also conceal the customs in your country. It's a bit too tossing." "It doesn't matter," Charlie said seriously, "Oris Hill can solve it. I will let people prepare everything, mainly because I have no one in Japan. The only friend who can ask for help is you. I don't know if you can get a boat for me and let Warnia and me leave Japan quietly by boat." Hearing Charlie's request, Ito said without hesitation, "Mr. Wade, boats are a trivial matter. I can prepare a luxury yacht for you at any time and make sure that you can leave Tokyo by sea without any hindrance. I just don't know when do you plan to leave? Charlie asked him, how long will it take to return home by the sea? Takehiko said, luxury yachts are generally large in size. Large ships have high stability and strong resistance to wind and waves, but their speed will be slightly slower. The average speed per hour is only about 50 or 60 kilometers. From here to Oris Hill, you must first go to the Yangtze River estuary in Zhonghai City, a distance of about 2,000 kilometers, and at least 30 hours of sailing. While talking, Takehiko said again, but because we are smuggling the ship, we still need time to deal with the Coast Guard, and the speed will definitely slow down when we get to the shore. So I estimate that it will take at least 3 times to get from Tokyo to Zhonghai. Charlie smacked his lips and said, 35 hours, it's really a bit longer. Ito nodded and said helplessly, smuggling is the fastest. You know, smuggling is basically by sea. If you are smuggling from Asia to North America, it will take more than a month to float at sea. Charlie said, this is only the time to get to Zhonghai. From Zhonghai to Oris Hill, it will take at least a few hours. Takehiko explained, if you still take a boat from Zhonghai to Oris Hill, this is estimated to be another 7 or 8 hours voyage. However, if you are in a hurry, I would suggest that you go to Oris Hill by helicopter from the shores of Zhonghai, in that case. Just over an hour. Charlie immediately said, okay, if that's the case, please trouble Mr. Ito to prepare the ship as soon as possible. I want to leave tonight. Both Takehiko and Nanako were shocked. The father and daughter said in unison, hey? Leaving tonight? Charlie nodded, and solemnly said, Honor went back by plane, and arrived in Oris Hill in more than 2 hours. I can't take Warnia to fly directly. After all, the entire TMPD thinks Warnia is missing. Searching hard, the customs are connected with them. If Warnia suddenly exits the customs, the TMPD will get the news as soon as possible. At that time, I am afraid that she will be detained by the customs and checked. After speaking, Charlie added, furthermore, Tianming and Honor must still fully monitor Warnia's whereabouts. Once she appears at the customs, it will be completely exposed. So, to be cautious, let her continue. She remains missing in front of the outside world, and then quietly leave Japan and return to Oris Hill. Nanako was feeling a little lost at this time, and Takehiko next to him said, Mr. Wade, it's hard to come here, why not stay for 2 days, so that I can do everything you like as a landlord? Charlie smiled slightly, I understand Mr. Ito's kindness, but this matter is really important. If I delay, I am afraid that something will happen in Oris Hill. After all, Warnia's grandfather is still in Oris Hill. Takehiko suddenly realized, and hurriedly said, I understand. This is indeed a rush, or else, I will have someone prepare the ship now, and then take care of the relationship with the Coast Guard, and strive to be able to set off at 1 or 2 o'clock tonight. Charlie said gratefully, Thank you so much, Mr. Ito. Takehiko quickly waved his hand, You are welcome, Mr. Wade, you are the great benefactor of the Ito family, I should do things for you. As he said, he took out his cell phone and said to Charlie, Mr. Wade, I'll make arrangements on the call, and let me be out of company first. Charlie nodded and said, I also want to make a call to settle the domestic affairs. Afterward, Charlie took out his mobile phone, pulled a group on WeChat, pulled Isak and Orville into the group, and said, Are you two taking it easy now? If it's convenient, let's have a conference call. The two immediately replied, Convenient. Charlie immediately initiated a group voice call, and Isak and Orville connected one after another. Isak came in first, and said, Master, what is it? Then Orville also came in, Master, what do you want to order? Charlie said, That's right, you two are people I can trust, so what I will tell you next, you must keep it strictly confidential and strictly enforce it, do you understand? The two said in unison, Don't worry. We must keep it strictly confidential. Strictly enforce it. Charlie gave a hum and continued, Tianming and Honor are about to usurp the throne in the Song family. You two quickly contact Tianming and tell him that Mr. Song's body is out of condition, so wanted to visit Song's father, pay more attention to Father Song's physical condition and personal safety. Isak blurted out, The Song family and his son are going to usurp the throne. Then Miss Warnia had an accident in Tokyo, did they also do it? Charlie said coldly, Yes, they arranged it alone. Orville gritted his teeth and said, This father and son are really mean-hearted, and even their relatives cannot be spared. I'll let the brothers hack them to death. Charlie exhorted, Don't be so impulsive, I will solve them, father and son, and what you have to do is to protect the safety of Mr. Song. Orville had no choice but to say angrily, Okay master, I will listen to you. Charlie said again, One more thing, I'm going to take Warnia to return home by sea. Then the ship will dock at Zhonghai. Mr. Isak, you can arrange a helicopter in advance for me. When we arrive, we will transfer to the helicopter immediately. Isak said without hesitation, No problem, Master, I will arrange to let the helicopter wait for you at Zhonghai. Charlie said with satisfaction, Okay, you two will closely monitor the Song family's father and son's every move, and report any actions to me in time. After the phone call, Warnia, who had just finished soaking in the hot spring, walked over quickly under the leadership of someone from the ITO family. When she arrived, he said embarrassedly, I'm so sorry, I made everyone wait for me. Nanako hurriedly smiled and said, Miss Song, don't be so polite, we just sat down. With that, she stood up and said, Miss Song, would you like to sit with me? Warnia nodded, Okay, thank you Miss Ito. With that, she sat down beside Nanako. Nanako looked at her still wet hair, and smiled, and said, Miss Song's hair is really good, black and shiny, and it has a lot of volumes. I don't know what you do to maintain the hair normally. Warnia smiled slightly and said, I usually use a kind of ginger shampoo, which has a hair growth effect. When combined with a nourishing hair mask, the hair quality can be guaranteed. However, the brand I used should not be available in Japan. I can mail some. Nanako said excitedly, Oh, thank you so much, Miss Song. Warnia smiled and said, Miss Ito doesn't have to be so polite, and there is no need to always call me Miss Song, just call me Warnia. Nanako said earnestly, Miss Song is older than me, then I should call you Sister Warnia. Nanako is still in her senior year, 22 years old, about the same age as Aoxu. Warnia is about the same age as Charlie. Therefore, she is 4 years older than Nanako. It was reasonable for Nanako to call her sister. But Warnia was flattered by Nanako's attitude. Nanako is now the head of the Ito family, the largest family in Japan, whose family strength is 10 times that of the Song family. With such strength, she can still be so polite to Warnia and actively call her sister. Naturally, Warnia is moved and feels a little closer to Nanako. After all, it was a woman who shared a lot of topics in common, so the two of them quickly talked in full swing. At this time, Takehiko also came back. He first greeted Warnia politely, and then he said, "Mr. Wade, the ship has been arranged to board the ship at the Tokyo container port tonight. You are really lucky." Well, internal sources say that tonight the Coast Guard's patrol is conducting equipment overhauls, so maritime supervision will be very lax, and going to sea tonight is the easiest. While speaking, Takehiko said again, "But I have also greeted the Coast Guard. If they change anything, they will not conduct any inspections on the boat you are on." "Okay." Charlie nodded with satisfaction, and said, "Mr. Ito, I am troubling you in this matter." Ito said respectfully, "Mr. Wade, and I don't have to be so polite." Warnia, who was whispering to Nanako, suddenly heard this and hurriedly asked Charlie, "Shall we leave tonight, master?" Charlie nodded and said, "Let's leave by boat tonight." Warnia's heart was tense, and she hurriedly asked, "Master, has something happened in Oris Hill?" Charlie didn't tell her about Tianming and Honor's medicine for Father Song, so he smiled slightly and said, "Don't think about it, nothing has happened, but I want to take you quietly without disturbing anyone." Warnia nodded lightly, and said gratefully, "Thank you, master." After speaking, she looked at Takehiko and Nanako, and bowed slightly, "Mr. Ito, Miss Nanako, thank you for your help and care." Nanako hurriedly said, "Sister Warnia, don't be so polite with us. Don't forget that you are my elder sister. We are also good sisters. From now on, this will be your home. If you come to Japan anytime, please stay at my home." With that said, Nanako looked at Charlie again, and said with dismay, "The same goes for Master. Please remember that this is Master's home in Japan." Charlie nodded slightly, smiled, and said, "Don't worry, I will remember." Takehiko hurriedly said, "By the way, Ms. Song doesn't want to cooperate with Nippon Steel? Do you want me to call Watanabe over and let him sign the cooperation agreement with you first?" Warnia was speechless in surprise. Charlie took the lead at this time and asked, "Is this person highly credible? Will he disclose Warnia's situation to the outside world?" Takehiko promised, "Mr. Wade can rest assured, Watanabe is absolutely reliable. I will tell him to keep secrets strictly and he will not talk nonsense." Charlie nodded, "Well, in that case, please I ask Mr. Ito to ask him over for me, and sign the contract tonight." Warnia hurriedly said, "Master, is this appropriate?" Although she also wanted to win the Nippon Steel's cooperation agreement, this operation was not a normal business cooperation negotiation at all, but completely used Ito's favor. She was very worried that Charlie would owe Ito for her. She is too emotional. Charlie smiled indifferently at this time and said, "You don't have to worry about this matter, I will make the decision." Warnia wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, she gave up. She knew that she already owed Charlie too much. Anyway, her life and heart belonged to him. As long as he nodded his head, her body and even the entire Song family could belong to him, so she didn't need to care too much. How much does she owe him? Charlie remembered one thing, and said to Takehiko, "By the way, Mr. Ito, I have to trouble you and do one more thing for me." Takehiko hurriedly said, "Please tell me." Charlie said, "What's the name of the vice president of Nippon Steel who docked with Warnia?" "Hashimoto, right?" "Yes." Ito nodded, "It's Hashimoto Kinsey." Charlie sneered and said, "You send a few ninjas and tie them to me, but don't send them here after you've tied them. You can get me to the dock directly, and then put them in the cabin. I will take him to Oris Hill." Takehiko said without hesitation, "Okay Mr. Wade, I will make arrangements." Although Hashimoto Kinzen is an executive of Nippon Steel, he can be regarded as a man of good looks, but he is still far behind the Ito family. He usually takes a driver and 2 bodyguards at most, but he certainly can't afford a ninja, such a top Japanese existence, so sending a few ninjas to tie him is absolutely easy. Takehiko arranged both matters in an orderly manner. He asked his family's ninja to immediately tie up Hashimoto, and at the same time he called Nippon Steel's chairman Shinwei Watanabe and invited him to talk at home. Although Watanabe was the chairman of Nippon Steel, he respected Takehiko, and drove over immediately when he heard his call. And the two lived very close, so 10 minutes later, he had already arrived at Ito's home. As soon as Watanabe entered the door and saw Takehiko, he hurried forward and said with a bit of humility, "Brother Ito, I don't know if you are looking for me so late, what can I do for you?" Takehiko smiled slightly, and said playfully, "Calling you over so late will not delay the world of you and your wife." Watanabe smiled awkwardly, his expression a little lonely. Although Watanabe is about the same age as Takehiko this year, and his physical condition is relatively good, only in the matter of men and women, there is something unspeakable. He didn't know what was going on. He was good everywhere, but his ability was getting worse and worse. Originally, he and his wife lived together at least 3 times a week, and the two were considered harmonious. But in the past 2 years, the desire and ability in this area have plummeted. From 3 times a week, to once a week, once every 2 weeks. Now, he has reached a month and it is difficult to have a state once. Watanabe has been to many hospitals and looked for many experts, but the feedback they gave is that this ability is sometimes irrelevant to the overall condition of the body. Some people are obviously very healthy, and can even be said to be very strong, but that's not enough. But some people look at the wind as they fall down, but they are incredibly strong in that respect. Physical fitness cannot be equated with that ability. Moreover, the ability in that area is also very troublesome to treat. Some are physiological degeneration, some are neurological degeneration, and some are psychological degeneration. All in all, if something goes wrong in this regard, no matter how rich it is, it may not be cured. Because of this, Watanabe was only troubled by this incident, but he was ashamed to tell others about this incident, so Ito didn't know anything about it. However, Charlie saw the melancholy between Watanabe and his expression, and then carefully looked at his expression, and he knew the situation well. At this time, after Takehiko and Watanabe chatted a few more words, Takehiko entered the topic. Shinwei, I have two things to come to you this time. The first thing is to taste bluefin tuna and taste Yamazaki 50-year-old whiskey. Watanabe smiled slightly, and asked with a smile, what about the other thing? Takehiko smiled and said, don't you want to build a joint venture in China? I will introduce you to a good partner, Miss Warnia Song from the Song Group. After that, Ito pointed at Warnia at the dinner table. Only then did Watanabe see Warnia. The whole person was immediately stunned. He was shocked and said, Song, Miss Song. Hasn't she been reported missing on TV after the accident? Why, how could she be here? Takehiko said at this moment, Miss Song is a distinguished guest in my family. She encountered an emergency this time. Because the matter was more sensitive, she did not disclose her whereabouts. Shinwei, you must keep a secret, understand? When Watanabe heard this, he nodded hurriedly and said solemnly, Brother Ito, don't worry, I will never reveal a word. Ito smiled with satisfaction and said, in this case, you first represent Nippon Steel and sign the cooperation agreement with Ms. Song. Having said that, Takehiko said very seriously, Brother, I'm selling my face. In terms of cooperation terms, we must make appropriate concessions. Watanabe said without hesitation, Brother Ito, since you have spoken, I will definitely give the best discount in terms of terms. Warnia hurriedly stood up at this time and said to Watanabe, Mr. Watanabe, I have been admiring your name for a long time. I am Warnia Song, and I hope you will take care of me in the future. Watanabe nodded and smiled and said, Miss Song, since you are a distinguished guest of Brother Ito, you are naturally also a distinguished guest of Watanabe. In our daily overseas cooperation, we generally strive for holding, but since Brother Ito speaks. Now, let's just keep it simple. You hold 51% of the shares and we hold 49%. What do you think? Warnia's biggest goal in coming to Japan this time is to reach holding cooperation with Nippon Steel. She is completely satisfied with the Song Group holding 51%. She talked to that Hashimoto for so long before, and tried to get a 50% shareholding of both parties but failed. So now Watanabe directly agreed to let the Song Group hold 51%, which made her immediately excited. So Warnia hurriedly bowed to Watanabe and thanked, Mr. Watanabe, thank you so much. I believe we, the Song Group, will definitely not disappoint you. Watanabe is also very fine on the road, pointing directly at the Takehiko next to him, and earnestly said, Miss Song, you have to thank Brother Ito for this matter. Brother Ito spoke, I naturally raised my hands in agreement. For Watanabe, he doesn't know Warnia, so he doesn't care whether Warnia owes him favors. What he cares about is letting Ito take his favors in mind, and if he needs it in the future, he will ask Takehiko to get them back. When Warnia heard this, she looked at Takehiko gratefully, and said thankfully, Mr. Ito, thank you for your help. Warnia is indebted. Takehiko is even more of a human spirit. He doesn't want Warnia to owe him a favor. The reason why he helped is for Charlie's sake, so he hurriedly said, Miss Song, in the final analysis, I still have to thank Mr. Wade for everything." Charlie looked at the performance of Takehiko and Watanabe, with a slight smile on his face. He is very clear about the mentality of these two people. It's nothing more than a chain of relationships. Watanabe sells Takehiko's face, Takehiko sells his own face. If that's the case, then just put the favor of both of them on himself. And since it's hanging on him, don't owe it all the time. In order to avoid long nights and dreams, just pay it back before you leave. Thinking of this, Charlie said to Warnia and Nanako, "Warnia, Nanako, please avoid me for a while. We men have something to talk about in private." Nanako stood up without hesitation and smiled, "Sister Warnia, do you like puppies?" Warnia nodded, "I like them." Nanako smiled and said, "I have a few purebred Akita dogs at home, and 6 little ones who are just 2 months old. They are very cute. They are raised in the east yard. I will take you to see." Warnia said excitedly, "Great, let's go now." "Okay." Seeing Nanako and Warnia go hand in hand, Charlie retracted his gaze, looked at Watanabe, and said with a smile, "Mr. Watanabe, Warnia is a good friend of mine. Can you agree to let her work together? I am very grateful for her 51% shareholding." Watanabe replayed the old and new tunes, and hurriedly said, "Oh, it's all because of Brother Ito's face." Charlie waved his hand to interrupt him and said seriously, "Mr. Watanabe, it's better not to look at the face of Mr. Ito. I want you to look at the face of your own body and make this cooperation concession bigger. What do you think?" Watanabe was surprised. Defeated in the heart, what does it mean to look at the face of my own body? What does it mean to make the concession bigger? While wondering, he asked curiously, "Mr. Wade, what do you mean by this?" Charlie smiled indifferently, and asked with an inscrutable look, "If I read it right, Mr. Watanabe should be very worried about the body now." Watanabe hurriedly said, "No, I am very healthy, and I often go to the gym to do exercises. The average middle-aged and elderly men do not pay attention to exercise." Charlie nodded and said with a smile, "Exercise can naturally strengthen the body, but everyone is a man, and there is no woman present. I will not hide some words. Mr. Watanabe's 2 years of married life, it should be very uncoordinated, right?" As soon as he said this, Watanabe's expression was horrified, but also full of embarrassment appeared in his heart. "This is the most difficult hidden illness in my heart, except for my wife and me, and the doctor I have visited. No one knows. How could Charlie know this?" Takehiko was also a little shocked and subconsciously asked, "Shinwei, you are not too old? Did something go wrong so early?" Watanabe flushed with embarrassment, grabbed his hair in a panic, and smirked, This, hey, Mr. Wade is really extraordinary. Can you even see this kind of thing?" Charlie smiled slightly. In the nearly lost ancient Chinese medicine, it is said that people have 3 types of qi, namely blood qi, vitality, and essence. Blood qi governs the outside and vitality is the inside. As for the essence, it is more reflected in the affairs of men and women. Blood qi is strong, and vitality is long, but neither qi has much to do with essence. Don't look at your vitality and blood, but your energy is sluggish. Without the essence, even if your body is strong, you still have strength and energy when doing things with men and women. At this time, Watanabe ignored the embarrassment, and blurted out, Mr. Wade, since you have such supernatural powers and can see the crux of my body at a glance, I don't know if you can cure me. Charlie looked at Watanabe with a look of excitement and eagerness. He tapped his finger on the table twice, and said with a smile, Mr. Watanabe, I never say anything that is unsure, if I can't cure it. Of course, I won't say it. Watanabe was so excited immediately, he blurted out, Mr. Wade. If you can really cure me, no matter what the conditions are, I will agree. For Watanabe, although he is not as rich as Takehiko, he is still one of Japan's top rich. After having so much money, making money has long ceased to be his first motivation in life. His first motivation is to enjoy life. Ironically, when it comes to enjoying life, you lose the body to enjoy life. For Watanabe, this kind of pain is an unbearable burden. However, this kind of hidden disease often has nothing to do with the amount of money or power and resources, but no matter how rich he is, the place cannot be used, and no one can save him. Charlie looked at Watanabe at this time, smiled lightly, and pointed to Takehiko Ito, Mr. Watanabe, for the face of Mr. Ito and the reason you just promised to cooperate with Miss Song, I can cure your hidden illness, but I have another request. Watanabe was very excited. If you have any requests, please mention them. Charlie gave a hum, and said, it's the terms of cooperation between you and Miss Song, and make a little more concession. Watanabe nodded repeatedly, and couldn't wait to say, how to make concessions, you decide the terms. Charlie smiled and said, in this way, both of you will contribute capital at a ratio of 5-5, but the equity will be distributed at a ratio of 6-4. In other words, Miss Song's Song Group has to own 60% of the equity in the joint venture. Do you have any questions? As soon as Charlie said this, Takehiko was blindfolded, and he thought to himself, Charlie is too dark, right? Is this person always so dark? When he opens his mouth, he will invest 5 or 5 shares and share 4 or 6 shares. He ruined 10% of the shares. Moreover, this is not a project of several hundred million. For a steel company to invest at least 20 to 30 billion, if you want to take 10% of the shares of others, the corresponding amount is to go to 2 to 3 billion. However, Watanabe nodded and said without hesitation, Mr. Wade, as long as you can heal me, I have no opinion on your condition. In the past few years, Watanabe has exhausted all his patience and hope in the process of seeking medical advice everywhere. Before he saw Charlie, he already had a very clear and affirmative understanding of this matter, that is, even if he let himself take out 10% or even 20% of his personal assets, as long as he can find it again the meaning and pleasure of being a man, he agreed without hesitation. After the money reaches a certain amount, it is just a number, no amount of practical significance. However, his own male prowess is half the fun of a man's entire life. Give up 10% of the shares and reap the joy of life for the other half of a man. This transaction is really worth it. Charlie nodded slightly, and said, I have medicine here. You can take it and it will take effect. After that, he looked at Takehiko again and said, Mr. Ito also helped me and Ms. Song a lot this time. I said before that I will help you to adjust your body before leaving. Mr. Ito will receive treatment together. As soon as Takehiko heard this, his heart was immediately excited. He thought to himself, from the changes before and after his daughter Nanako, I can see Charlie's supernatural powers. The injury that my daughter suffered at that time was helpless by all top doctors, but I didn't expect that Charlie would heal it. Even my daughter's injuries can be cured, so Charlie can treat me with this weak physique, and he can't help it. Thinking of this, he hurriedly said, Mr. Wade, thank you so much. Charlie smiled indifferently, and said, wait a moment, I will prepare the medicine. After that, he stood up and returned to the room arranged for him by the Ito family. After returning to the room, he took 2 clean glasses from the coffee table, and then poured half a glass of water into each. After pouring the water, he took a rejuvenation pill from his pocket. He scraped off some powder from the rejuvenating pill, and the powder immediately melted after falling into the water. 2 cups of water, a total of 1/10 of a rejuvenating pill. Charlie wasn't stingy. The main reason is that the conditions of the 2 people are different, and the demand for rejuvenating pills is not large. The first is Takehiko, who is physically weak, mainly due to the injuries and shocks he received in the accident, and the damage to his vitality after the amputation operation. In this case, a little rejuvenation pill is enough to replenish the blood he lost. As for Watanabe, his main problem is that his energy is sluggish. Rejuvenation pills can naturally replenish his energy, but replenishment is like filling a tank of fuel for a car that is out of fuel. If he drives this tank out of fuel, he will fall into it again. An immobile situation. Therefore, Charlie prepared to do both. First, use a little water added with rejuvenating pill powder to restore his essence, and then use a little aura to help him repair the loss of essence in his body, so that he can generate essence by himself like a normal man in the future. In this way, he will be able to restore his ability in that area. For Charlie, aura is the best scalpel. He can use aura to get rid of the lesions in a person's body, restore a person's blood chi, vitality, and essence, and repair the body's damaged meridians. On the contrary, he can also use spiritual energy to abolish a person's blood, vitality, essence, and even meridians. At the time, Fredman, the chairman of East Cliff Wilson Group, after getting together with Wendy, pretended to be forced in front of Charlie. After Charlie sealed his spirit with aura, he lost his ability to be a man. There is also a Japanese Sanda expert like Yamamoto Kazuki. After he had used the 4 words of the sick man in East Asia, he used aura to destroy the meridians throughout his body. Therefore, Charlie can now also use aura to repair Watanabe's new and damaged essence. When he came out with 2 glasses of water, both Takehiko and Watanabe were a little surprised. Charlie came to the 2 of them and handed the water cups to them respectively. Come on, 2 of you, drink the medicine. The 2 looked at each other for a while. They didn't expect that the medicine Charlie said was only 2 glasses of white water. Seeing the 2 of them were surprised, Charlie smiled slightly. You 2 will drink this glass of water, and you will know whether it will work. Takehiko nodded, picked up the cup, and said seriously, Okay Mr. Wade, I will drink now. After that, drank all the white water in the cup. Watanabe looked at Takehiko hesitantly, then at the water glass in front of him, hesitated again and again, and decided to hold the glass up and drink it with his head up. After a few seconds, both of them felt a different kind of warmth suddenly poured into their bodies, and a different kind of warm current flowed from their abdomen throughout their bodies. At this moment, the two of them were dumbfounded. Looking at each other, they could easily see the deep shock in each other's eyes. When the two were shocked, Charlie looked at Watanabe with a smile on his face, and said with a slight smile, "Come on, Mr. Watanabe, stretch out your hand, and I will signal your pulse." Watanabe was nourished by the warmth in his body. He was immersed in it. Hearing Charlie's words, he nodded hurriedly and said, "There is Mr. Wade." After that, he stretched out his hand immediately. Charlie put his fingers on Watanabe's Zenhi meridian, and a touch of aura penetrated into his meridian. These few auras can already guarantee that he can continue to produce essence in the future, and then enable him to rejuvenate the male glory. Watanabe couldn't help thinking of his beloved wife in his mind at this time. Thinking of the two gentle scenes, he felt a little change in his body. This bit of change immediately evolved into a strong impulse, which made him overjoyed. This is effective so soon. Watanabe was shaking with excitement. In order to ensure that the impulse was not fleeting, he hesitated for about 2 minutes, motionless, without saying a word, with all his attention, feeling his impulse. In these 2 minutes, instead of disappearing, his impulse has grown stronger. At this moment, Watanabe's excitement burst into tears. He exclaimed from the bottom of his heart, "I have been looking forward to it for so many years, and I have been waiting for this day in my dreams, and today is finally realized." At this moment, he looked at Charlie and cried, "Wade, Mr. Wade, you are the living God." Charlie smiled lightly and asked him, "Mr. Watanabe, just ask you for 10% more shares for this curative effect, is that too much?" Watanabe stood up and blurted out, "Not too much. Not too much. You are my second-born parents." At the side, Takehiko, seeing Watanabe's pants put up a bag, hurriedly waved at him, "Oh, sit down, sit down. How well are you?" Watanabe looked down, embarrassed and excited at the same time. "Brother Ito, this is the symbol of male power. You don't know, how long have I longed for this power again." Takehiko was stunned suddenly. At this moment, he suddenly understood Watanabe's excitement. At this moment, he thought of his legs. Although it didn't take long for me to lose my legs, my desire to stand up again, and to have my legs again, was beyond everything. If one day, I can grow legs and regain the state of a healthy person, then I am afraid that I will be 10 times or even 100 times more excited than Watanabe. He said these words in his heart. Thinking of this, he sighed in his heart again, "Hey, in my life, I am afraid that it is impossible to have legs again. In the future, I still don't know that I will face decades of incomplete life." At this moment, I am suddenly envious of Watanabe. He has also experienced several years of crippled life, but he was healed by Mr. Wade. What about me? In this world, I have never heard of a severed limb that can grow. After sighing for a while, he finally realized that Charlie was not actually black. He made up for Watanabe's imperfect life, but only received his 2 or 3 billion worth of shares. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.